Welcome to Everyday Tarot, your daily dive into the divine wisdom of the tarot. I'm your host, Camille A. Saunders, and today I'll be talking about the star. Whether you're a seasoned tarot reader or just starting to explore, this podcast offers daily insights, intuitive messages, and practical advice drawn from the cards. Each episode is designed to help you connect with your inner wisdom, find clarity in your decisions, and tap into the energy of the universe. Tune in every day, Monday through Friday, for fresh perspectives and empowering guidance from the tarot as interpreted by me. The best way to support the podcast right now is to listen daily, rate, review, and to follow or subscribe in your chosen podcast app. The next best way is to check out my Patreon. Supporting me there gives you early access to upcoming episode topics, digital downloads I've created, and monthly tarot hangouts with me and other listeners. The link will be in the show notes to check that out. You can always go to my website, CamilleASaunders.com/everydaytarot for all the latest information related to the podcast and to find images of the cards that I pull. If you're local to the greater Puget Sound area in Washington State, I'd love to see you at one of my Let's Talk Tarot meetup group events where we all bring some of our favorite decks and play around with tarot and oracle decks together. Maybe you'll even find a deck that you really like and can search for that particular one in the future. Okay, so let's get into our main discussion. So we're well into season 3 now. In the first season, I introduced tarot through talking about oracle versus tarot cards, myths of tarot, how to find a deck, reading for yourself versus others, and much more. If you haven't listened to that, you should go back and check that out. In season 2, I went through the first 13 cards of the Major Arcana, one per episode. And now we're into season 3, where I'm going through the final 9 cards in the Major Arcana, and then talking about each suit. So today I'll be talking about the star. The star, the number associated with it in the Major Arcana is 17. So numerology associated with 17s are leadership, insight, overcoming challenges, wisdom, stardom, and good fortune. And traits associated with that are being real, intuitive, self-determined, bringing attention or focus to things, and ambitious. So common depictions of this card, often there's like literal stars. I think I have the card from 5 of my decks in front of me, and I think they all have stars on them. So again, some literal stars. Some show things in the background. Some like are flowers that look like stars. But again, sort of like a shimmering. Sometimes there's water. In the Goddess of Love tarot deck, there's sort of looks like the vessels and sort of pouring water out of them, although the water is actually like stars, like they're pouring stars out of it. So yeah, in the Fide Rosa tarot deck by Lila and Olive, they have flowers that look like a star. It almost looks like clematis or maybe even like columbine flowers. And then in the Sassarabita tarot deck, there's like an astronaut in space, and then sort of like what looks like a Milky Way maybe, or like some other sort of thing like that, and then stars in the background. So then you have like being in the literal stars. In the Anima Mundi deck, there is a bird. I think it's an ibis, and that's standing in water, and then there's sort of like it must be dusk or something. There's big stars behind it in the sky. In the Goddess of Love tarot deck, like I said, it's like a goddess holding 2 vessels, and it's like they're pouring stars out of them. There's also a red rose. What else? There's a lot of pink and red in this card. There's almost like a moon in the background, or like multiple planets that have images on them, like roses and stars and different swirling things, almost again like we're out in the solar system with different types of stars. There's ones that are like the 5-pointed stars, and then there's ones like that look more like how stars look in the sky, where they're sort of like twinkling. And then the goddess is standing on top of a red rose. And in the Therapist Who tarot deck, there's also a lot of red and pink and kind of blue in this card. There's looks like stars in the background. It kind of looks like a person. And then almost like they have like something wrapped around their shoulders, like a cloak or a scarf or something. Lots of reds and pinks, and then they have these like things sort of like shooting out of the bottom that are blue. Again, almost like the twinkling of stars looks like. And on this deck, there's a word underneath the title of the card, and it says hope. So yeah, let's get into the meanings now. So the star card follows the tower in the sort of numbers of the major arcana. So if you listened to yesterday's episode about the tower, so now we're transitioning into the star, which is a lot more of a card about hope. In the Toshin book, they talk about the star illuminates and offers hope and inspiration. She's a reminder that everything one needs can be found within. She brings a message of faith, heralding inner vision, spiritual power, and the enduring beauty of the natural world. Her clear light penetrates through darkness, rays spreading ever outward as the unnecessary and false are stripped away. She reveals the purity at the core of all things. She stands at the wellspring, nurturing growth and encouraging clarity. She's generous in her offerings. She softly, gently opens the heart, igniting energy, fertility, and creation. Her gifts are all the sweeter for the struggles endured in reaching her domain. And the title for this section about the star card is called Purity and Illumination. So again, often on these cards you see, again, like the literal stars blinking. You see sometimes that like wateriness or the like purification aspect. I'm looking through the Toshin book because they have lots of depictions of every card. Lots of watery things, a lot of symbols. There's some that are like in the ocean or in ponds. This one has like shells on it that sort of have stars on top of them. And again, a lot of like pouring water or people's feet in water or underwater, or sort of like the cosmos are often depicted, again, almost like a literal star that we think of. So what are the meanings of this card? So we talked about illumination, we talked about hope and inspiration. In the Fearless Tarot book by Elliot Adam, again, they reference how this card comes after the turbulent times of the tower, right? So with the tower, you maybe had the chaos, the crumbling down of structures, of old habits, of different things, and now we're into the renewed hope. So the hope can come after seeing your life transcendentally. From the higher vantage point, you can see the big picture and your real life purpose. The star asks you to follow your proverbial North Star, the compass point that leads you back to the authentic self, the best of who you really are. So there's also this aspect of introspection or reflection, or again, sort of going inward to think about what you might want to do. It says the 8-pointed star that's sometimes depicted resembles the points on a compass. Now I'm going to look at some of these cards and see if they have 8 points. Yeah, so on the Anima Mundi card, the big star in the middle has 8 points. I don't think any of the other ones do, but that's sort of interesting. So again, like that, like what's on a compass. It says, when the star appears, then you will find your way. The star is associated with the eternal, immortal part of your spirit. The authentic essence continues long after your body has gone. By tuning in to the eternal aspect of self, you can transcend any challenge you confront in the mundane world. So again, it might have you thinking about like what's the meaning of your life? Have you lost perspective, becoming consumed by things that really aren't important in the long run? When was the last time you felt clear about your purpose? And they also talk about that the woman on the star card that's often depicted is drawn from the healing waters of the universal pool of the collective. So again, this is often why there's like water depicted, or sort of that like collective, right? We think of the universe, like the cosmos, like also these stars are all, right? We don't just see a star singularly, but we see a collection of stars across the sky. So also thinking about what feels dry or parched in your world, what needs replenishment and watering. It says often a woman is seen taking some of the water for herself. She knows she is worthy and that it is wise to do so. By taking the gifts of the universe to replenish herself, she will be able to share more of herself in the benefit of all. And then also she pours water back into the universal pool. So again, there's sort of this like aspect of like giving and receiving, but sort of like that you have to be nourished and well fed and like sort of your needs met in order for you to be able to also like share those gifts or share those things that you experience or that like being in community outward. But of course, you have to sort of have your oxygen mask on first before you can help others, as they say on the plane. So, in the Ophidia Rosa Tarot Deck Guidebook from the Star card, it says, from pollen to stardust, from filament to feather, we are where we belong to the universe tethered. It's very interesting because so this one depicts a flower. In the Anima Mundi deck, we have like the feather of birds that are shown there. In the Sacerdote Tarot deck, we have like the tether, like the astronaut. You can see the cord that they would be tethered back to like the shuttle or the station, whatever that they came to space in. Um, it's very interesting that we have the stars in the other one. So it's sort of like bringing all of this together from pollen to stardust. From filament to feather, we are where we belong to the universe tethered. So it also gives me this sort of like image of the like from seed to fruition, or like sort of that like circular process that happens of like from the beginning to the end, the whole time, right? We're connected to other people, we're connected to self, and that's what this card is all about. In the Anima Mundi deck, I told you this is depicted as a bird and it's an American white ibis. It says, after the events of the tower, you are ready for healing and positive change. Learn to forgive and forget in order to move on. Be open to change and open your heart and let this period of transformation happen. And things associated with this card are hope for the future, courage, healing, generosity, and inspiration. And then lastly, in the Goddess of Love Tarot Deck Guidebook for this card, the goddess depicted is Inanna, and the astrological correspondence associated with the star card is Aquarius, which as an Aquarius, I know that. That's like the one correspondence that I am aware of. So it talks about the star is a spiritual illumination and sustenance and a return to our inner knowing. It's known as one of the most auspicious cards in the deck, like the goddess herself is giving your third eye a little kiss. It's a metaphoric light at the end of the tunnel after the intensity of the tower. Right, so again, we have to think about the larger context of these cards sometimes where the star comes right after the devil and then the tower card in the Major Arcana. So it talks about how this, just as the tower represents the underworld aspect of the goddess of love in her role as catalyst and erotic destruction, Inanna represents the heavenly face as the star. After her descent into the underworld, the Sumerian goddess of sex and war comes out transformed, having experienced the trials and tribulations of mortality. This vulnerability allows her to surrender to her true nature and as an expression of the universe made manifest. The star is generally seen as the North Star, a guide on the spiritual path. This is the comforting message you've been waiting for. It's a reminder from the cosmos that this love, this experience, this path is sacred. Your sensuality, sexual expression, and eroticism are your guide into the mysteries of the universe and into your purpose. Yeah, so how lovely with that card. Again, you're sort of being held and being comforted and given hope after this sort of tumultuous time of the tower. So yeah, I'm going to be thinking about that as I dive in and see what the cards have to say today on this topic. So I'm going to be thinking about what is giving us hope right now, what sort of things can we do to support ourselves, where how can we be more, maybe not more introspective, but how can we be introspective right now and have this hopeful lens on life, and what sort of, yeah, what sort of ways can we engage with that? All right, and since I actually brought out all of the tarot decks I have, all the cards for them earlier to look at the different versions of the star card, I'm going to pull from my one oracle deck that I have, the Wild Kuan Yin Oracle, the Velvet Goddess Edition by Lana Fairchild. All right, so I pulled the card that is number 34, Blessing of the Kata Bestowed. So if you listen to my Tarot versus Oracle decks episode, or even if you haven't, Oracle decks generally don't have any particular structure to them. They aren't like the same across different Oracle decks. So this one has different numbered cards, I think 1 through 43 maybe. So this one's number 34. And yeah, there's quite the large book that references each card. So I'm not going to read all of it. It's probably 5 or 6 pages of like a chapter book size. So I'll try to sort of glean the general ideas from this. But yeah, it talks about the that in your heart a desire for union grows, an impulse to move deeper into love's embrace. As you open your heart, I pour forth my healing balm and my blessing. It's never too late for love. It's never too late for joy, and it's never too late for connection. As my blessing vests in your heart, a path will open up for you, leading you into love's expansive landscape. You too shall be as enchanted in love as I am, cherished and adored, surrendered in love. Love's blessing and presence finds you now. You are worthy of such blessing and shall be safe in the joy of its embrace. And I'll have a picture of this card up on my website, but when I look at it now, there's sort of a person they look very joyful. They look like they're walking or skipping, and they have one foot up in the air and one foot down, and their arms are sort of over their head. They have a white scarf or like silk thing in their hand that they're holding onto. They look like they are up way up high, like at elevation, because it looks like they're almost above the clouds. There's like a snow-covered mountain in the background, and there's a large, I don't know, bison, bull, some kind of creature like that with horns that you only see like half of their face and their body, but they're all the way on the other, like on the edge of the card. So we have a lot of like perspective going on in the card. There's also birds flying above the person, and maybe there's something like a bridge down at the bottom in the left corner, like way, almost like the person may have gone over it earlier and now they're all the way up here on the mountain. So it talks about that in the Tibetan tradition, the white silk scarf, known as the kata, is a positive symbol that augurs new relationships with blessings for good fortune. It's a symbol of devotion and is also a visual reminder of divine blessing granted for a successful transition into a new chapter of your life in whatever way that manifests, including through a new or deepened relationship. It talks about later that to receive the blessing of the kata as fully as possible, intend to open your heart and allow love to have its sway. This may mean that some relationships unable to be healed at this time for whatever reason need to be released. This is so you can grow and open your heart more freely to those able to love you the way you wish to be loved, and those able to receive your love the way you're able to give. If you can contain an ocean of love in your heart, and you are in relationship where only a thimbleful can be given or received, then perhaps your heart is left dissatisfied, as compassionate as it may be. The oracle of blessing of kata bestowed brings with it the opportunity for love in greater capacity to be given and received. That may come in unexpected ways. through new relationships or situations that help open current connections to more unconditional experiences of love. How the blessing manifests itself is up to love itself. What is certain is that love will wish to increase and expand because that is its nature. As shifts takes place within you and within existing relationships through the bestowal and vesting of this blessing, even if those relationships continue in your life, you're asked to trust that even if there is pain, it is pain that comes from healing. It will pass as relationships take on a more open and loving form. All right, I'm going to end there for now. So links for the tarot decks that I talked about and also the Oracle deck will always be in the show notes and on my website if you'd like to look at them or purchase them. And thanks again for joining me today on Everyday Tarot. Just as a reminder, the podcast comes out daily, Monday through Friday for all of 2025. All right, see you soon. Bye-bye.